years when I was doing my send-off speeches with the cast, the time flies cliché became dramatically apparent. I would send off one cast, you know, wishing them luck, encouraging them to keep their eyes on the balls, to maintain their focus. And then honestly, it seemed like I just blinked my eyes and I'd look up and a different cast was sitting there. I told all of them, I probably told you, that the time was going to go by very quickly. There, at the beginning of their experience, I tried to prepare them for the end of the road experience. I tried to warn them that at some point they were going to hear the footsteps. They were going to hear the knock on the door. And I must have said to you, you know, there is going to be a final show. And it's probably going to be a pretty soggy affair. As I recall final shows, not long after the intermission, the audience begins to notice that something peculiar is going on. Because the corners of the singers' mouths are all beginning to descend, and the chins are beginning to quiver. And then, of course, this reaches a very dramatic climax when they get to, there are many roads to go. Where do they go? What are the names? And the audience is going, the heck? Then, of course, there is a final meal. The Last Supper. It's kind of a fancy banquet. Everybody dresses up and there are friends in attendance. The food is good, but nobody can swallow. And there's probably, in those days, a slideshow. A video presentation. Now, the people who put these presentations together ask themselves this question. How can we juxtapose these shots in order to create maximum devastation on the cast? They figure that out and then they put music. And then, of course, you know, at some point the tables are cleared, the show is over, the cast director rises and he says, well, everybody, it's just been a great year. Thank you so much for all you've done to make this happen. We wish you the best. Have a great life. Goodbye. And then, of course, throughout the hall you hear and then, I mean, I'm not talking about just little sheddings of tears. I'm talking about great racking sobs and people holding on to each other in group hugs. I have seen this. In fact, my last visit to the cast in Thailand and the one before that in Italy, these were among the longest, most protracted, dramatic, horrendous goodbye scenes I have ever witnessed. I have personally seen parents at these occasions put their children in the back seats of cars, saying, honey, we really need to get out on the road. The kids at this point, as their parents are pulling out of the parking lot, the kids are rolling down the windows and holding their hands up. And there are other kids running alongside. It is really quite pathetic. When I would tell these stories and issue these warnings, the point I was trying to make was that it wouldn't be good to get to the end of this year on the road and realize that you hadn't done what you meant to do, or you hadn't been who you meant to be. Now I'm going to talk about something just for a few minutes that I never addressed in those years. These are things that have just come to me recently. I'm going to talk about something that some of you are just now beginning to understand, and others of you aren't. You aren't even beginning to understand yet. I'm talking about getting older. And no, actually, I'm not just talking about getting older. I mean, everybody's getting older, even she's getting older. I'm actually talking about getting old. Or at least thinking about getting old in a way that I've never thought about it before. The thing I want to say to you is that getting advanced, getting old is without question the weirdest thing that has ever happened to me in my life. In the same way that I felt it was necessary for me to tell you that the Up With People experience is hard, 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 I'm telling you that getting old is weird, 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 weird. Sometimes it seems so strange to me, so shocking, that I go into denial. Or at least I hope that somehow nobody else is noticing. And then there are the rude awakenings. Actually this was 2 or 3 years ago, I was in Fort Worth and I went to a Jack in the Box to get a big 32-ounce icy Diet Coke. I ordered my Diet Coke, the girl puts it in front of me and she says, that'll be $0.25. And I said, $0.25? Whoa, what a bargain. And she said, well, it's a special promotional thing we're doing this week for senior citizens. So I said, you know, you might want to be careful. Because there's a possibility that you could hurt somebody's feelings or even offend them if you got it wrong. And she said, oh, I never say it unless I'm absolutely sure. Thank you very much. When I visited the cast in Japan a couple of years ago, 2 adult women in the cast came up to me on different occasions independently and told me I reminded them of their grandmothers. I mean, it's not that I'm not old enough to be their grandmother, I guess I am, but gee whiz, nobody had ever said that to me. I mean, cast members have told me many times, oh, you remind me of my drama teacher, you remind me of my favorite aunt or something, but my grandmother? Please! I have a little 4-year-old great niece, my sister's granddaughter, who's like my own, and she was sitting on my lap a year or so ago, and she looked up at me and she said, are you old? And I said, oh, well, I suppose in some circles, you might say. And then I said to her, now, you know, why would you ask me that? What makes you think I'm old? And she said, well, it's those stripes on your face.